Do you wanna dance?
Hey guys, welcome back. Well, it's finally time, I think, to remove the engine. This is the setup as you guys have seen on the time lapse. I have the engine hoist hooked up, but before that what I did is I removed the axles from both sides. I disconnected the prop shaft because this is a 4Motion car. I also disconnected the exhaust, went through, checked all the wiring, made sure no wiring was gonna snag up. I think I got everything, and basically all that's holding up the engine right now is the transmission mount and the engine mount. And so I think I'm ready to go. We will see. But yeah, once again guys, the engine has to come out. The frame rail is just beyond repair. The reason the engine has to come out is because the frame rails are beyond damage. So there's no way to replace the frame rails with the engine and transmission in. And so after speaking with some body shop people, they said it's best to remove the engine, and I agree. So we're gonna remove the engine. It's gonna be very tight in this garage, but it needs to be done. And so that's what we're gonna do right now. So yeah, I'm gonna set you guys up. Yeah, one step closer to sending it off to a frame shop. Well, guys, we did it. We took out the engine from its home. And here it is. No real damage on the engine. As I told you guys before, the thermostat under the intake manifold, that was busted, but that's pretty expected. It's plastic. Back here, no issues. I mean, we see the little turb ski right here. And nothing else really. Transmission looks to be in good shape. No issues here. And here is the aftermath. So, essentially, in order to remove this engine, really the first thing you have to do is make sure all of the wiring is disconnected. The ECU used to live right here. In fact, the ECU is right there. Lives right next to the fuse box. That's what I did as step one. Step two, I went under the car and disconnected the drive shafts, the axles, and those are disconnected. There's no bolts or anything. They're just kind of clip on. There's a circlip there, and so you just kind of have to pry and pray until it comes out on both sides. So once I did that, I then went on to remove the prop shaft, and the prop shaft is held with 3 bolts. If you guys can see, these are 10 millimeter 12-point bolts. So make sure you got a 10 millimeter 12-point bit with you. So I removed those. Honestly, it's pretty difficult to remove it with the axles out. I should have left the axles in because this shaft rotates, and so as you're trying to loosen, it wasn't coming. So I ended up using my impact, and they whizzed right out, not a problem. And then moving on to the exhaust. Remove the exhaust. There is this V-band clamp right here. I think it's a 7 or 8 millimeter Allen. Once you remove that, I thought it would come free, but no, there's also a bracket down here that bolts up right here. 2 13 mils, and it'll pop off. And since there's a flex section right here, that means the exhaust is free to move. After that, oh, another fun fact, if you've never done axles, never replaced axles on one of these, you have to remove the lower control arms. Lower down the lower control arm, push the steering knuckle and the brake assembly out of the way, and that'll give you enough clearance to pull out the axle. So anyway, after the axles, I did the prop shaft, then did the exhaust. Also disconnected these 2 heater core lines. Also disconnected the transmission shifter thing. Relatively easy. There's these, I think, 12 or 13 millimeter bolts on top of the transmission. Right here, here's a remnant. And then the cable itself connects right there. Did that. What else did I do? Then I already had the AC lines disconnected, so that was no issue. But this big fat AC line connects right over here. So I forgot to remove that. And then finally the fuel lines as well. I totally forgot about the fuel lines. I'm not sure how to remove this right here. I pried off this little cover, but I wasn't sure how to remove it, so instead I just removed it from the high pressure fuel pump right there. And then snaked the hose out. The coolant bottle I just left on. And yeah, that's pretty much it. And then finally, 2 18 millimeter bolts, 3 18 millimeter bolts, and the dog bone mount. Those are 16s, I believe. So once you remove those, the engine will be free. As you guys can see, this frame rail is impeding the way, so I had to kind of wiggle around and let the transmission fall down a little bit more, just so that I could wheel it out. And then you guys let me know how I'm doing with my engine support. I put these two blocks. They are basically holding up the mating surface between the engine and transmission. There's bare metal underneath, no pans or anything else. And then I have this board here. It's not even holding anything, but it'll be there just in case the engine decides to go. And then obviously the cherry picker, it is relatively loose. It doesn't leak or anything, but I know this is not the best way to store things. But as you guys can see, my garage is just a home neighborhood garage, so nothing really special. But yeah, this will be the resting place for this engine for the meantime. I placed it such that I had enough room to work on it. And as I said before, I'm gonna have to replace the thermostat over there, and also the starter. Now, moving right along, I disassembled this fender, as you guys can see. Relatively simple. What's interesting about the Tiguan is that all of these mounting points are removable. So that is really nice. So they basically, I guess they're sacrificial pieces of metal that protect the upper strength member here. So I ordered these guys from the dealership. Yeah, I ordered them from the dealership, and all in all for both sides, including the fender bumper clips, that was 300 bucks. So pretty damn pricey. But as far as removing the fender, just like any fender, there's a bolt on the inside here, a 10 millimeter. There's a bolt, actually a sneaky one, right in there. And then the ones you can see, 3 up top. And then these 2 also hold the fender. Yeah, and then the fender basically comes free. There's a foam pad on the inside. There's a foam pad on the inside that I guess keeps the dust out that you gotta remove. Not a huge deal. And yeah, now we're here. So one thing, so I thought this frame rail was not too bad. I mean, just looking at it, obviously it is tweaked. But I figured the apron was going to be okay. Well, coming over here, underneath the coolant bottle, you can see it's broken right here. Well, not broken, just bent. And that goes into that hole right there. So, one of two possibilities. Either this moved, and I can't really tell from here if this is damaged or not. Either that moved, or someone at the factory, or maybe someone since, tried to jam in this coolant bottle unsuccessfully. I don't know. But one thing is for sure, this engine mount, as you can see right here, it actually moved out. So that's not good. It might be that the aprons are bad on this, or maybe it can be pulled. I don't know. I'm not an expert on this. And then coming over here, this is the problem spot right here. So as you can see, it clearly kinked right there, and basically from that point on the frame rail is bent, and actually the impact was so hard that it actually ripped the frame rail right here. So yeah, I don't know what is gonna happen here. All the body shops are recommending to go all the way back to the firewall and replace this from brand new frame rails. Of course, that is expensive. I have seen YouTubers do splices on frame rails before. I think that would be great, although I'm not sure. And then, of course, moving right there, if you can see, the apron was ripped away from this frame rail. So yeah, getting closer. So basically why I'm doing all of this, why I'm disassembling this, is I'm trying to save some money here. I have the means to take out the engine. They were going to charge me an extra $1,000 just to remove the engine. They quoted 9 hours. I think I removed this engine in maybe 2 hours. to be completely honest. I mean, of course, I did have the entire front clip already removed, so that really made things a lot easier. Yeah, so this is the state of affairs right now. So obviously going forward, I'm going to be pulling off all of these lines that are in the way. Everything on this side as well, including the harness and everything else. And yeah, snapping some more pictures, sending them to the body shops, seeing what they say. But the reason, or I guess not the reason, one thing I wanted to do is I wanted to retain the wheels. I wanted the car to be a roller. So I reinstalled the lower control arm so that we can put the wheels back on. The car still has steering, the car still has brakes. Just so that if it does come time to do it, a tow truck or something like that will be able to come in and pick this thing up. Another positive note as well is if you look, the frame rail, or the subframe actually, you can see there's a connection point right there, and here's a connection point right here. These do not look to be affected at all. There's no cracking or anything, at least that I can tell, and the car seems to have good alignment. So my bet is that the frame rails back here are actually just fine. Again, I'm no expert, but this is obviously very, very daunting. So again, lesson to you all guys, go visit the car before you buy it. If I had seen this, if I had seen these frame rails under the bumper, took a little peek, I would have not bid on this thing. And I was surprised to see it go for $7,000, but that is what happened. So yeah guys, I hope you're enjoying this. I'm enjoying it, I'm learning a lot. Obviously not the greatest situation with the amount of damage here. Definitely not gonna be cheap, but it has me dreaming about what this Tiguan will one day be. And with the engine removed, it's making me ponder what other engines could possibly fit in there. I don't know. For now, the main priority is to put it in together, put it back together, fix it, put everything in, and see how much it costs and go from there. As I had shown you guys before, the fender was pushed all the way in against this hood, basically. The hood was overlapping on this side and the fender over there is pushed out. It makes me believe that these, I'm gonna call them sacrificial mounting points, I'm really, really hoping that this is not bent. Again, going down, it all looks very nice, no cracking or anything back there, and the hood seems to have been untouched. The hinges look okay. I mean, hinges are deceiving, of course, but that's why I'm excited to get the parts from Volkswagen, put this on, put the fender on, and see what it looks like, because if the fenders line up, that means these upper frame rails were not impacted. Actually, right here, there's some cracking. I don't know, guys. Not a good feeling, but we have made a bunch of progress, and I hope you guys are enjoying it. Hit that like button. I really need it right now. Thanks, guys.